it to Hamby, and so now that'll be that. So the Indiana Fever come into here after losing 3 of their last 4 on the
The Indiana Fever just pulled off what might be their grittiest win all season. But here's the thing, it almost didn't even count. They were up by just 1 point in those final seconds. And the referees basically gave the LA Sparks multiple extra chances that just shouldn't have happened. Caitlin Clark and Sydney Carlson jumped on it right away, calling out what they saw, and fans are absolutely furious. So what made this game so wild? And how did the Fever manage to overcome all that nonsense to keep their playoff dreams going? Let's break down all the chaos in LA and why this one might totally change their season. What do you think about the WNBA refs? Let us know down in the comments below. Let's go.
Let's go.
One common theme in the WNBA is how poorly officiated these games can be. The lack of competence from the people wearing the striped suits. Every time I watch a WNBA game, a thought crosses my mind when it comes to the officials, and that thought is, how much money do you have on this game?
Seriously, why did the last few seconds of this Fever Sparks game feel like they went on forever? Because for just 9 seconds of actual game time, those referees somehow stretched it out into what felt like an eternity. They almost ripped away Indiana's biggest win of the whole year. The Fever were holding on to a slim 76-75 lead. The place was absolutely rocking, and both teams knew this was way more than just one game. Think about it. Indiana was in 6th place, and Los Angeles was right behind them. One single possession could completely change the playoff picture. Every dribble, every whistle inside crypto, calm arena mattered, and it just seemed like the whistles never ever stopped.
And I'm talking about right at the end of the game when the nonsense was being called and cheating was being speculated, right? Everybody was looking like how Caitlin Clark was looking by the end of that game last night with the Indiana Fever and the Los Angeles Sparks. Everybody was looking just like this, man. What in the world was going on?
So it all kicked off with the Sparks trying to get one last shot to steal the win. But instead of just letting the play happen naturally, the refs kept stepping in over and over again. The clock would reset in really weird ways. They'd call contact on one side of the court, but then completely ignore the exact same thing on the other. And even when the Fever forced a turnover or played perfect defense, Los Angeles just kept getting fresh chances to inbound the ball. These weren't even long plays, but every single stoppage just stretched the game out, making it feel super one-sided. Honestly, you just had to wonder how many lifelines the Sparks were going to get.
Let's take a look at this. All right. Now, it was 0.6 on the shot clock when this happened, okay? They had the ball. They were running around. I thought the game was over here, honestly. I thought the game was over, but they ended up calling a foul, saying, oh, the game is still going on. All right, whatever. They got the foul. Cool. So, Kelsey Mitchell, she goes to the free throw line, right? And she missed both of them. Now, I think Kelsey Mitchell should have made both of them. All right, at least one of them. But she missed both of them.
All right. So in that absolutely exhausting final stretch, Aaliyah Boston came up with a defensive play of the whole night. She just snatched the ball away when the Sparks tried to force it inside. Then the Fever raced down the court, and Kelsey Mitchell earned herself a trip to the free throw line. There were only 0. For seconds left, and her first free throw actually rattled out. That should have been the end of it, right? But instead of just letting that final tick expire, the officials somehow granted Los Angeles yet another inbound play with 0. 1 second still showing. That call alone sent Fever fans online into a total frenzy. I mean, how can any team realistically run a play with less than a blink of an eye on the clock? It's why.
But man, there is no way. Right at the end of the game, you should be on top of it. You telling me you're not paying attention to when some hands touch that ball? Come on, man. And then to reward them with the timeout, like, fam, that's crazy work. Look, Caitlin Clark, like, what is going on here? She's like, no. Look, Caitlin ready to run the floor, fam. She's like, no. What is this, man?
And get this, it wasn't just paranoia or fans overreacting. The thing is, the league has had a bunch of other questionable game endings this season. We're talking weird timing decisions, really soft fouls getting called in crunch time, and just total chaos at the replay monitor. All of that has totally frustrated fan bases all across the WNBA. Indiana felt like they were just the latest victim in a pattern that makes you wonder if it's either pure incompetence from the officials or something even worse. Social media, of course, absolutely blew up instantly with clips of that. 1 second inbound spreading everywhere and accusing the league of embarrassing itself yet again.
0.1 on the shot. 0.1 on the shot clock, fam. What are we doing? What are we doing, man? I mean, this is nonsense. How do you even have time to do anything?
But the Fever, man, they just refuse to be beaten. Despite Los Angeles getting all those repeated chances, the Sparks just couldn't capitalize. And Aaliyah Boston made sure of it. Standing so strong at the rim, the ball just bounced away harmlessly. And the buzzer finally sounded for real. It felt like a total test of patience. Almost like a trial to see how much nonsense Indiana could actually endure before they finally got their reward. And while the referees definitely made sure chaos was in charge, it was absolutely the players' resilience and grit that decided the night, especially with so many key names stuck on the sidelines.
Oh my goodness, man. They did everything they could to try to get them a win in this one, fam. It's ridiculous. It's
just ridiculous, right? How does a team missing its biggest star and 3 other regular rotation players still manage to win a game that completely shifts the playoff race? Well, that's exactly what Indiana pulled off against the Sparks. Caitlin Clark was out again, still not clear to return. Sophie Cunningham was unavailable, too, which basically wiped out one of their most reliable scoring options. Sydney Carlson and Erica McDonald were also sidelined, both guards who bring so much energy and ball-handling depth. And then there was Lexi Hall, who actually stepped onto the floor sporting not 1 but 2 blackened eyes from a collision in the previous game. Honestly, if you looked at that lineup before tip-off, most people probably figured Indiana just didn't have enough firepower left to win.
Steph mentioned, whenever she sees you with the 2 black eyes, she smiles in a way because it just exemplifies your toughness. Do you feel tough in these kinds of situations with these 2 black eyes?
I mean, that's what people keep telling me. Every time she sees me, she smiles and then she says, "I'm so sorry." I'm like, you don't need to be sorry. This is what it is. And when I'm playing, like, I forget about it, and then I go and look at the mirror. I'm like, oh shit, they're still there. So yeah, I don't really think too much about it because I don't necessarily feel them all the time.
Yeah, and you're still able to see completely fine.
Yep.
Right.
Nothing's changed.
All right.
I think the easy assumption was that Los Angeles finally had their big chance to just completely bury Indiana's playoff hopes. Missing Clark's shooting and Cunningham's spacing definitely left the Fever super short-handed offensively. Plus, Carlson and McDonald usually helped shield Kelsey Mitchell from having to carry the entire point guard load herself. So, without them, it was supposed to be a total mismatch. But here's the thing. Sometimes basketball just doesn't follow the script. And one veteran player in particular decided to completely write her own story at the Sparks' expense.
Sims left open for 3. She got it. Offensive rebound. Sims the runner. Here's Howard. Shovels Sims right at the doorstep, and she gets it off the window. 3-on-3 the other way. Sims the take and finishes the lefty layup.
Odyssey Sims has been all over the league in her career, even wearing a Sparks jersey way back in her younger years. But on this night, she was a total nightmare for them. She racked up 21 points, constantly finding open lanes to the rim. And when the Fever really needed someone to stay composed late in the game, Sims delivered the last 5 points all by herself. That closing stretch really put the dagger in L.A., giving Indiana the margin they needed to outlast both their opponent and the referees. In a season that's been full of questions, Sims absolutely reminded everyone what real experience and poise look like under pressure.
Sparks started the game on a 7-0 run. Here's Mitchell, right back to Boston. And unable to get that one, but follows her on. Cameron Brink and Ray Burrell going to be checking in next time there's a stoppage for LA. Here's Turner in traffic, and she gets it up off the window.
Beautiful pass from Boston.
7 on the shot clock. Mitchell turning the corner. Jump stop in the lane, loses the ball. Brink throws it right to Boston. Easy layup.
Meanwhile, Aaliyah Boston once again looked exactly like the franchise anchor she truly is. Her box score doesn't just tell you points and rebounds. It really shows pure dominance on both ends of court. She completely controlled the paint defensively, forcing the Sparks into all sorts of awkward shots and snatching boards. Even when she was getting double-teamed, every time the Fever offense started bogged down, Boston would steady them with strong post play, setting screens and getting crucial second-chance possessions. Without her presence, that fourth-quarter chaos probably would have ended in a much, much different way.
Big bucket from Lexi Hull.
And then there was Lexi Hull. She was playing heavy minutes, still swollen and bruised from that earlier collision, but she totally embodied the team's toughness. You could just see it in how she dove for loose balls, sprinted back on defense, and still managed to space the floor even when her shots weren't dropping. Indiana really needed bodies that night, and Hall showed that next woman up mentality that's become their signature. Kelsey Mitchell might not have been flawless, especially in crunch time, but her constant scoring pressure forced LA to adjust defensively all night. Even when her shots weren't falling, she demanded attention, which opened up space for Sims and Boston. That willingness to shoulder responsibility really defined the team's leadership without Clark.
But we have a deep team that a lot of people, a lot of players on our team could be playing and they're not. And that's a tribute to our depth, certainly, but also sometimes everybody wants to play, right? And I think the selfless nature of this group just can't be overstated. And that's why we're able to be in positions like this that we're able to be in.
Stephanie White really pieced together rotations that heavily leaned on defense and pure toughness. Indiana just scrapped for everything, defended hard, and made every single possession matter. What we saw wasn't just survival. It was proof this group can actually thrive, even when they're shorthanded. And now, with reinforcements on the way, the idea of what happens when Clark rejoins this gritty core just takes on a whole new energy. So, why did Caitlin Clark, who didn't even step foot on the court, completely dominate the post-game conversation? That's what made this Fever Sparks game even wilder. Indiana's win really should have been the main headline, but instead, Clark's reaction to the officiating grabbed all the attention. Sitting on the sidelines in street clothes, she definitely didn't stay quiet. She made it crystal clear that the referees had crossed the line, and her frustration mirrored exactly what fans were already screaming online. When the most visible player in the league puts that kind of spotlight on the officiating, it doesn't just stay a one-night argument. It immediately becomes a story.
Bet did you place prior to suiting up tonight? What's the over-under, and are you concerned with a specific outcome? The officials in the WNBA, yes, they're incompetent, yes, they're trash, but it always seems like there's some shady, they're so bad and so incompetent, it seems like there's shady business taking place behind the scenes. If the WNBA needs to investigate in anything, if somebody needs to investigate in anything regarding the WNBA, it's about how dirty.
What Clark said wasn't just about one single bad call. Not at all. It was about that clear pattern of inconsistency players have been fighting against all year, and she wasn't the only one pointing it out. Sydney Carlson, even though she was out with injury, brought her own fire afterward, calling out how Kelsey Mitchell never seems to get the whistle she deserves. Carlson even went further, hinting at something every player has definitely thought, but rarely says publicly that when referees just refuse to protect players from obvious contact, it honestly feels like you're not just competing out there. You're literally surviving. That assault on the court feeling Carlson touched on. It resonated so hard with anyone who watched how incredibly physical LA was allowed to get away with playing together. Their words completely reshaped the entire storyline. Instead of this just being another edgy finish in a packed WNBA schedule, it became a league-wide discussion about whether officiating is really failing one of the most important parts of the game: fairness. Clark's influence just amplifies the conversation because her presence in sports media is so massive right now. Every single clip of her, every comment, it spreads across social platforms and talk shows in hours, not days. When she draws attention to a problem, the entire league absolutely feels that pressure. Fans already see her as the cornerstone of Indiana's future. But here, she took on a totally different role. She became the voice pressing for accountability.
How dirty are the hands of some of these players that are in this league? Oh yeah, tonight's the night I'm just gonna go 2 for 13. Oh, hey, it's the WNBA. I can slide into 2 for 13 and nobody will bat an eyelash. I can shoot 5 for 22 and nobody would really think twice because it happens
and honestly, Sydney Carlson's voice mattered a ton, too. She's a veteran, right? She knows all the ins and outs of league politics. So when she adds her perspective, it really proves this frustration isn't just coming from a young star. No, veterans are just as tired of it. And that gives a whole message so much more weight for the Fever. These weren't just complaints. They actually felt like unifying rally cries that fueled their victory and gave meaning to all that chaos around it. Now layer that with the fact that Clark is already showing up in practice again, moving through drills and working on pregame routines, and it completely changes the whole energy around Indiana. The players prove they can withstand anything while shorthanded. Add Clark back into that lineup, and what looks like scrappy survival suddenly transforms into dangerous potential. The playoff picture just feels different. Indiana isn't just clinging to a spot anymore. They look ready to test themselves against whoever stands in their way. Music, applause. So, what does it actually mean when the league's biggest star starts showing up to practice again? For Fever fans, it means hope is turning into something way more concrete. Caitlin Clark hasn't played in weeks after that right groin injury sidelined her. But now, she's not just there for morale. She's actually shaping up with her teammates, going through shoot-arounds and joining in on drills. When people spotted her stepping into pregame routines in Los Angeles and hitting jumpers, that wasn't just background noise. It totally looked like a player rounding the corner. The interesting part is how carefully everything is being handled. Nobody from the team has put an exact date on when she returns. And maybe that's for the best. WNBA injuries have a history of really nagging if they're managed poorly, especially those lower body ones. But here's the thing. Clark being in those shoot-arounds and non-con drills isn't some fake appearance. Not the kind an organization sets up just to calm fans down. It's active participation, and that signals a real shift toward getting back on the floor. One fan summed up the feeling online with a simple reaction. She is back, and that kind of buzz, it doesn't happen for small steps.
Nice roll!
Still that unanswered timeline is definitely creating some tension. Fever coaches aren't committing to anything. The front office hasn't released any official word, and Clark herself is keeping things pretty vague. So all that speculation is driving everyone into guessing games. Will she come back before the regular season even ends? Or will we only see her if Indiana actually makes the playoffs? That mystery really has its own kind of power because every new clip of her moving in practice sparks fresh debate and pushes anticipation even higher. Look, the team has already survived without her, dropping 4 out of 5 games before bouncing back with 2 straight wins. So, just imagine what her presence gives them heading into the postseason picture. Teams around the league already know this much. Adding a shooter who stretches defenses away Clark does totally change his entire scouting reports. And it's not just about the spacing she provides. It's her court vision, that instinct to elevate her teammates, and her calm in tough possessions. Indiana has developed some serious resilience during her absence, but plugging a generational creator back into that lineup, that could absolutely supercharge their whole system.
It wasn't ideal in terms of how the game was. It was ugly. We had moments where we were better than others, but we dug in. I mean, when you think about key defensive stops, key offensive rebounds, like AB's key offensive rebound there at the end, making plays, deflections that led to steals or deflections that led to bobbled passes, just the sense of urgency that we played with in those last minutes through some gray area, right? Through some times when it wasn't perfect. And, it was a gut check time, and our team stepped up to the challenge.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We've totally seen playoff runs transformed by late season comebacks before. Star players returning just in time can absolutely flip an underdog into that storyline nobody ever saw coming. And Clark steps right into that same potential. Now, a healthy version of her doesn't just put points on the board. She massively boosts morale. Having her back reminds everyone in that locker room that they're not just scraping for survival anymore. And the fans. Every sighting of her spreads like wildfire. Clips of her shooting pregame rack up thousands of shares within hours, just proving how much gravity she has, even off the court. Tie that energy with a fever roster that's showing can fight through all kinds of adversity, and suddenly her return feels less like just an addition and more like pure fuel. Indiana already proved they can endure, but with Clark back, they might just prove how far this group can actually climb when the playoffs arrive. The Fever's win wasn't flashy at all, but it told the story of a team that simply refuses to back down. They were pushed to the edge by officiating decisions that baffle fans. Yet, they still found a way to keep their playoff path under control that honestly matters more than the final scoreline. It showed they can handle chaos and still stand firm. So, the question is this. Is the WNBA being held back by poor officiating? Fans deserve better, and players do, too. Because once Caitlin Clark truly returns, this already toughened Fever group might just be the team nobody expects. But everyone suddenly has to what do you think of the WNBA refs? Let us know down in the comments below.
Great job, ladies! I'm really proud of you guys. That was an ugly, hard-fought win. Hard-fought win. And listen, we know that we didn't play our best basketball, and in those moments where we needed a stop, or we needed a big bucket, that you don't teach. And y'all got it. So again, marrying our energy effort with our execution. Okay, that's our journey. But this is a hard win right here. I'm proud of you guys. Great job. Yeah, 3, 1, 2,